Good morning, guys. It's so good to see you for another day and another video. I know that all of this week we have been talking about setting of different stories. Say that with me. Setting. Setting. We remember that setting means where things happen. Say that with me. Setting is where things happen. So we've been looking so closely at the books we read to try and figure out their setting, where they happen. That's right. Today for our question, I want you to think about your favorite setting in our school. Settings don't just have to be in books. Settings can be in your home. Settings can be at our school. A setting is anywhere where things happen. Where is your favorite setting in our school? Your favorite place where things happen. Our classroom is a setting. The gym where we go to PE is a setting. The library is a setting. The office and Mr. Hines' art classroom or the computers room or the playground. Those are all settings where things happen in our school. So let's close our eyes and think. Where is your favorite setting in our school? Think a little bit more. There's so many to choose from. Open your eyes. Do you have one? You can tell the person next to you, or you can just tell me. Where's your favorite setting in our school? There are so many different ones to pick from. You know, I have so many favorite settings in our school, but I think my favorite setting out of all of them is our classroom. That's the place where we all get to come together. It's a place where we get to play and learn and be kind to our friends, all in the same space. And even though there's a lot of fun settings in our school, the playground is a really fun one. I know the gym and the art classroom and the library are really fun ones. My favorite out of all the settings where things happen is our classroom. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of gross motor time and we'll get all those morning time wiggles out. You find a spot where you can go and dance and I'll turn on our song. Let's push it back all the way so you can find a spot where you can do our fun freeze game. I'm going to start the music right now.
Let's play the party freeze game. Now remember, when I say freeze, freeze. And when I say dance, dance.
Dancing, dancing all around. Dancing, dancing, dancing. Dancing any way you please.
But stop when I say freeze.
Move, stay frozen.
Everybody, get ready to hop.
Hopping, hopping all around. Hopping, hopping, hopping. Hopping any way you please.
But stop when I say freeze.
Don't move.
Everybody, get ready to skip.
Skipping, skipping all around. Skipping, skipping, skipping. Skipping any way you please.
But stop when I say freeze. Everybody, get ready to twirl.
Twirling, twirling all around. Twirling, twirling, twirling. Twirling any
Great work, everybody. What an awesome way to get all of those wiggles out so early in the morning. The morning is an amazing time for us to exercise our bodies so we can get some motion that helps us get big and strong. I'm going to bring you guys right back here so we can take our deep breaths and get ready to focus on our story. Today, I'm going to do belly breaths. Try to make your belly as big as you can. When you breathe in, feel the balloon inside your tummy get bigger. In, it's getting so big. And out, feel it get tiny again. Let's do 5 of those. Number 1, breathe in, breathe out. Do you feel the balloon getting tinier? Number 2, breathe in, breathe out. Number 3, make your balloon big. Breathe out. Number 4, breathe in, breathe out. Number 5, breathe in and breathe out. Hopefully after deep breathing, you guys are feeling nice and calm. Calm means that our bodies are relaxed. We're not super excited or super crazy anymore. We are relaxed and we're ready to focus on the book that we're about to read. Now, my friends, let's look at our settings chart. We have found the settings for so many different stories this week. Oh my goodness. We found the setting for A Pocket for Corduroy, the laundromat, for Froggy Gets Dressed, his house and the snow, for the napping house, and for Miss Nelson Goes Missing. Wow, we have worked so hard to find all of those settings. I have a question for you. How did you know that these were the different settings where things happen? How did you know that? For example, in Froggy Gets Dressed, how did you know that one of the settings was outside in the snow? How did you know? What do you see in this picture that tells you? You probably see lots of different things. You see trees, and we know that trees only grow outside, not inside. You probably see snow that he's playing with on the ground. You see a snowman. You see the snowflakes falling. All of those, my friends, are called details. Can you say details? Details. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I feel like it was maybe a little bit confusing when I talked about it, so we'll talk about it again today. Details are tiny things inside the pictures that we need to work really hard to spot. Details would be the trees, the snowman, the snow on the ground, the snowflakes falling. What about on this page? What are details on this page? Tiny things in the picture you have to look for. What details do you see? I see a snowball that he's making. I see 2 friends working together to build a snowman. I see his footprints in the snow. We use our picture power to look really closely at the pictures of every book we read. And you guys are so good at finding details, you find them in every single book that we read in our classroom. Details help us figure out the setting of a book. If we want to know where things happen, we need to look for details in the pictures. Yesterday we read Miss Nelson Went Missing, and we figured out that the setting of that story is inside of a school. We looked for details to help us see. What details do you see in this picture? I see desks. I see a pen. What do you see? Maybe you see a plant. Maybe you see windows. Maybe you see tape on the teacher's desk. Maybe you see a trash can. These are all details. Say that word with me. Details. Details help us learn the setting of a book. If we're confused and we don't know what the setting is, all we need to do is look for details in the picture, and the pictures will tell us. We already know what the setting of this book is. The setting where things happen is inside of school. But this time while we read, let's look for even more details that tell us that the book happens in a school. As we read it, you look for details, and I'll stop and point some out too. Miss Nelson is Missing by James Marshall. The kids in room 207 were misbehaving again. Spitballs got fired up into the ceiling. Paper planes whizzed through the air. They were the worst behaved class in the school. They did not listen to their teacher, Miss Nelson. What details do you see in this picture, my friends? I see paper planes. I see the kids sitting in their desks. Are they being good listeners? They're making funny faces. They're playing with the trash can. All those details help me figure out that this picture is inside of a school. The setting is a school. Oh, these kids are not listening to their teacher. Now settle down. Please settle down, said Miss Nelson in a nice voice. But those kids didn't listen to her. They threw paper airplanes. They whispered and they giggled and they squirmed and made silly faces. They didn't even listen during story time. They were not good listeners for Miss Nelson. They always refused to do their work. Something has to be done, said Miss Nelson. How do you think she feels that the kids aren't listening to her? Probably pretty sad. The next day, Miss Nelson didn't come to school. Wow, yelled the kids. Now we can really not listen. They started to make more spitballs, and they ran through the classroom. They used dinosaur voices. They threw paper planes. They were not safe. Let's be terrible today, they said. Not so fast, said an unpleasant voice. Do you remember who the mean voice comes from? Their other teacher. A tall woman in an ugly black dress stood in front of them. I'm your new teacher, she said, Miss Viola Swamp. And she rapped the desk with her ruler. Miss Nelson's not here anymore, she said. Where is Miss Nelson? Said the kids. Never mind, said Miss Swamp. Open your books. And the students did. They saw that Miss Swamp was not nice. She meant business. She made them work all day and gave them so much homework. No story time today, Miss Swamp said. Keep your mouth shut, Miss Swamp said. Sit still. And if you misbehave, she said, you'll be sorry. Oh, Miss Swamp is so mean. The kids in room 207 were sad. They didn't like Miss Swamp. They missed Miss Nelson. Maybe we should try and find her, they said. So they went to the police. Detective McSmog was on the case. He listened to their story. Where's Miss Nelson? They asked. He said. I think Miss Nelson is missing. But they already knew that. Detective McSmog was not much help. So some other kids went to Miss Nelson's house to find her. But Miss Nelson wasn't there. The only person they saw was who? Miss Swamp. Run, they said. If she sees us, they'll give us homework. So they ran as fast as they could away from Miss Swamp. Why would Miss Swamp be at Miss Nelson's house? Maybe something terrible happened to Miss Nelson, they said. Maybe she was eaten by a shark. Maybe she went to outer space. Maybe her car was carried away by a bunch of butterflies. But none of those things seemed very realistic. The next day, the students were in class. What are some details that you notice on this page? What do you see? I see details of the desk drawers that pull out with things inside of them. I see details of words that are written on the board. Do we write words on the board in our classroom? That's something that's the same. This page happens inside of a school or a classroom. That's the setting. That's where things happen. Oh, I'm so glad that those details showed us that. The children sat in the classroom. They were so sad. They wanted Miss Nelson back. There were footsteps in the hall. Step, 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 step. Oh no, said the kids. Here comes Miss Swamp. Hello, children, said a sweet voice. It was Miss Nelson. Yay, said the students. We missed you, Miss Nelson. Where were you? That's my secret, said Miss Nelson. Are we going to read a story today? They said. Yes, said Miss Nelson. Are we going to play? Yes, said Miss Nelson. Oh, the students were so happy. They were good listeners during story time. They were kind to their friends during playtime, and they did everything their teacher told them to. Back home that night, Miss Nelson took off her coat and hung it in the closet next to a long black dress. When it was time for bed, she sang a little song. I'll never tell, she said to herself with a smile. The end. Thank you for the story. Thank you very much. Woohoo! I have a question, my friends. At the end of this story, when Miss Nelson says, I'll never tell, what do you think she means? What's her secret? Do we know where Miss Nelson went? No. But look, in the very beginning of the book, when Miss Swamp comes in, she's wearing what? An ugly black dress. At the end of the book, what does Miss Nelson have in her closet? an ugly black dress. Is it the same ugly black dress? Let's look really closely. Look at Miss Swamp's ugly black dress. Now look at Miss Nelson's ugly black dress. Look at those details. I think they're the same. Do you think that Miss Nelson was just pretending to be Miss Swamp so the teacher or so the kids would listen to their teacher? At the beginning, the kids weren't listening. Miss Nelson needed to do something. What if she pretended to be Miss Swamp so the kids would be good listeners when she got back? What if that's her secret? Her secret is that Miss Nelson and Miss Viola Swamp are the same person. She was just pretending to be Miss Swamp. Wow. Mind blown. We're going to read this book again next week, and we'll talk even more about that part. But before we go, let's look at our settings chart. We already know that the setting of this book is in school. And I want to go back and look at all the pictures that show us that this book is in school. Does this picture have details that show us that it's in school? Yeah. Look at this picture of school. Does this page have pictures that have details that show us that it's in school? Yeah. Their teacher's reading them a story, just like your teacher reads you stories. What about this picture? Does this picture show that the setting is in a school? Yes, look at them sitting at their desks, and their teacher is there. We'll do one more. Does this picture show them in school? The setting of all these pictures is in school, and we know we look for details in the picture to see where things happen. All right, my friends, I enjoyed this story so much. We will read it again next week. But for right now, let's talk about our at-home activity for today. Today, our at-home activity is counting out objects with numbers. Now, we did this a little bit last week, but I would like to repeat it because the most important thing with all these activities is that all of your students get repeated exposure to them. So they get to do them over and over again so they can get better at them over time. Today, the activity is counting out numbers. So all you need is to cut a piece of paper into little pieces, and on every piece of paper you write a different numeral, a different number. So one piece of paper can be 1, one can be 2, one can be 3, and the number that you go up to just depends on what your student is comfortable with. If your student knows all their numbers from 1 to 10, then you can write all 10 numbers. If your student only knows their numbers 1 to 5, then maybe you want to write numbers 1 to 6 or 1 to 7. So you can only push them a little bit past what they're familiar with. But regardless, every little piece of paper has a number on it. Then you get a bunch of toys and you put them in a big pile on the table. And you have your student draw the number. Once they draw the number, they can see what number is written on it. And you can help them identify it. You can say, oh, that's the number 1, and you can trace the number with them with your finger. So trace it, and then say, let's count out 1 toy, and they can count out 1. Next, you can draw a different number. And, oh, this number is 3. Help them know what the number is, trace it with their finger, and then they can count out 3. You can either do this together as a team, or you can play against each other, and you can set a number to whoever is the first person to get to 15, whoever is the first person to get to 20 wins the game. It's up to you. But the important thing, whether you make it a team or whether you make it a race, is that the kids are practicing what the numbers are and that they're counting out according to that specific number. It helps them learn the numerals, and it also helps them learn that every single number has a specific quantity attached to it, so they'll get to practice it. That'll be a fun activity for you guys today. I will see you guys again in the morning. I hope you have an amazing night tonight, and I am so excited to do another video tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.